From the studios of Farm Journal Broadcast, this is AgDay.
Home cooking in a whole new way.
I want to experience some of these things, but they're always better at someone else's place or at the restaurant.
How a chef is taking homegrown food to a new level. Cool tech.
So customers are looking for more speed.
See what will soon be coming to the market and maybe your farm. As the U.S. tries to thaw relations with China.
We're wasting no time.
By sending another top U.S. official to Beijing. The latest right now on AgDay.
AgDay, presented by Pioneer. What's next happens when experience meets expertise. Pioneer. What's next happens here.
Good morning, I'm Clinton Griffiths. A new effort is underway to warm up the chilly ties between the U.S. and China trade relations right now, with the U.S. Secretary of Commerce traveling to the country. Secretary of Commerce Gina Raimondo is the fourth high-profile official to visit China in recent months as Chinese leader Xi Jinping's government looks to revive foreign investor interest in China as it tries to reverse a deepening economic slump. While in Beijing, Raimondo announced she and her Chinese counterpart agreed to exchange information on U.S. export controls that have angered China, and they set up a group to discuss other commercial issues. Now, she hopes that will reduce misunderstanding on national security policies.
This is meant to be a dialogue where we increase transparency and where we are clear about what we are doing as it relates to export control enforcement. And by the way, to show you how real this is, the first meeting of that new information exchange is tomorrow in Beijing. We're wasting no time.
During a meeting, Raimondo stated the U.S. desires healthy competition and has no intention of impeding China's economic advancement. She stressed the importance of having a stable economic relationship that benefits both nations and aligns with global expectations. U.S. political leaders are trying to make sure China doesn't gain any unfair trade advantages here at home. AgDay's Michelle Rook joins us. And Michelle, now as we've reported, relations between the two economic superpowers have not been good.
Clinton Farm Group leaders and U.S. lawmakers I talked to continue to tell me they think that the relationship between the U.S. and China is the worst it's been in 30 years. And that is certainly evident in the most recent trade data. China's purchases of U.S. ag products have slowed dramatically as a result of increased sanctions by the administration, especially over intellectual property, and that has led to rising political tensions.
I think it's pretty bad. I mean, we come off a great phase 1 and phase 2 China agreement that we had. It's dropped off, and you know, we've continued a high level of trade there, but it still is not as good as it could be. I think the politics around the threat that China produces or puts forth toward our country is a very difficult thing for us to deal with. But we need to find a way to make sure that we can continue to trade with them.
Yet China is trying to get away from the U.S. dollar being the dominant currency and is making major infrastructure investments in other countries.
China is everywhere, and I think sometimes we don't get that. So I think we got a lot of work to do, and we got to get better at it if we're going to be competitive, and especially with some of these countries around the world where China clearly sees an opportunity and is seizing it, and we've been a little bit slow at the switch.
The U.S. is losing market share in China, especially to Brazil, but they're also trading with Russia, South Africa, and even Ukraine. At the same time, the U.S. is also buying less products from China. I'm Michelle Rook reporting for AgDay.
Russia's attacks on Ukrainian grain ports and ending the Black Sea grain deal are having a tremendous impact on Ukrainian ag right now. That's according to a new report from the Wall Street Journal. It says around 3/4 of Ukraine's grain exports have been impacted by Russia's recent actions. It says that farmers in the country are facing difficulties selling grain due to an increase in transport costs and lower income. The loss of the grain deal also caused global grain prices to rise, but in Ukraine, prices fell due to those excess supplies. Now, the restrictions on exports also might lead to difficulties in financing the next crop planting. There's also ongoing concern about clearing landmines from fields, further complicating farming. What impact did last week's hot and dry weather we saw during Crop Tour have on crops? We get an update in this week's Crop Progress Report from USDA. Corn condition dropping to 56% good to excellent. That's down 2% from the previous week. 9% of that crop is said to be mature. That's 1% ahead of the 5-year average. As for soybeans, they also dropped a bit condition-wise, now at 58% rated good to excellent, down 1% from a week ago. Spring wheat harvest sits at 54% completed. That's 9% behind the 5-year average. Happening right now, Florida is preparing for severe weather as Tropical Storm Idalia is heading toward the state's west coast, and other states are going to feel some of the effects. It's forecast to strengthen to a Category 2 hurricane and make landfall in the Sunshine State later this week. Now, according to the National Weather Service, a hurricane watch is in effect from Inglewood to Indian Pass, which includes Tampa Bay. It could drop up to a ½ inch of rain in parts of Florida, Georgia, and the Carolinas by midweek. And the AgDay weather team is focused on this latest tropical storm and the impact it could have on the Gulf Coast. Meteorologist Martin Lorimore has an update on the latest track.
Yeah, we're watching Idalia currently in the Gulf of Mexico. She'll be making landfall close to Florida later on in the midweek, possibly as a major hurricane. So preparations are underway. They've got a state of emergency under the state of Florida as well for that. And it could have some significant impacts as well with that system. So they're watching it very closely over the next couple of hours. You can see Franklin on the side of me as well. So again, we are watching pretty closely throughout the rest of that day. But again, that severe storm risk will be there across the state of Florida for both on that Tuesday and Wednesday as Idalia makes her way up the coast. Rest of us still sitting pretty warm. We'll be watching us get a little bit cooler as we head into our overnight. Temperatures in the 60s all the way south as around the Oklahoma, Arkansas area, but the 90s are returning, and we are also expecting some pretty toasty temperatures out toward the Mojave. We've got a great nice picture here out of South Dakota from Shell Lewis. It was a pretty good one. What a great way to start your morning with spectacular sunrise. Shell Lewis of South Dakota sharing the sunrise she captured through the barn gate. Our morning forecast coming up.
It's a busy week for industry announcements. On Monday, New Holland rolling out its first all-electric utility tractor. Now take a look. The T4 electric power uses a state-of-the-art lithium-ion battery pack to power a fully electric drivetrain. Now it's estimated the 74 horsepower tractor can run for about 4 hours on average, or up to 8 hours for low energy demand jobs. It comes in 4-wheel drive and with an 84-inch bucket and can perform some autonomous tasks. New Holland says the near silent operation is ideally suitable for a variety of farms, including hay and forage, dairy, livestock, municipality work, greenhouses, and specialty crops like vegetable and orchard operations. Now, the tractor is the latest development in the company's alternative energy lineup, which includes equipment powered by methane and liquefied natural gas. Meanwhile, ag tech company Raven Industries is rolling out new innovations this week. They include Raven Cart Automation, which helps to sync the grain cart's speed and heading with the combine during unload on-the-go operations. Now, the company says this aftermarket product can reduce tractor and combine operator stress by up to 1/3. It's also rolling out Direct Steer. That's an electric drive, automatic guidance technology, and Raven Sense and Act to help improve accuracy and efficiency in spraying applications. And Case IH unveiling their new Steiger 715 this week, calling it the most powerful Steiger ever at 778 peak horsepower. Case says this model ranges in size and scale with an eye on visibility, maneuverability, and roadability, but the main goal is efficiency for farmers.
So they're looking at covering more acres and doing it faster, quicker, and with the things going on with labor and trying to find good operators and everything, they'll run fewer big tractors, but they want to run them with skilled operators. So we're seeing a need for higher horsepower and pulling these implements. It's not the width so much sometimes, it's the speed. So customers are looking for more speed. Like
when I get into it, it's intuitive even for me. So when we have somebody who's new, never been on the farm, we sit in the buddy seat with them. We got lots of room so we can show them the tricks of the trade. And it's easy to show them and teach them. And then it's easy for them to kind of make the machine their own, whether it's the light setup or the hydraulic flows or the max PTOs and that stuff.
Now, the Steiger 715 only comes with tracks. The company says the unit cuts down on compaction, it's nimble and fuel efficient. It's available for order for 2024. Weather helping corn and soybeans continue to trend higher on Monday. We'll have details in Markets Now next. And later, ag leaders in North Dakota are working to make sure more of what farmers grow ends up on the dinner table in the country.
Ag Day is brought to you by End Zone from Farm Shop MFG, which allows you to rehydrate your soybeans from 10 to 13% on a 20,000 bushel bin. That's an extra semi-load added to your bottom line. Order your End Zone fan control now for as low as $3,300 while supplies last.
Calls are growing for changes at Bayer, the latest investor Artisan Partners. A founding portfolio manager telling Reuters that Bayer needs to demerge two of its three business arms. Artisan is calling for Bayer to find new owners for its over-the-counter and pharmaceutical units. Manager saying that Bayer has a, quote, whole host of problems, including too much debt. Now, Artisan is not alone. Bluebell Capital Partners also calling for a breakup earlier this year, and mutual funds group DECA has called out the company's previous leadership. The heat and dryness that Scout saw on Crop Tour continued to impact the markets on Monday. Michelle Rook is back with a deeper dive in Markets Now.
John Payne joining us with Markets Now. With row crops higher, wheat lower on Monday, and soybeans the price leader. Obviously, we're putting in some late season weather premium. John, above 14 now on November beans. Where do we go?
Well, I think at this point, it's how the yield reflects in the September WASDE report and then what the grain stocks look like at the end of September. So in the case of soybeans, you have a market that is very well priced, not just from a standpoint of what it's worth, but what it's worth to the end user. And the end users are essentially the crushers globally. So you see the crushers globally needing supply. They're going to have to pay up for supply here. Right now, they have good ending prices, meaning the oil and the meal prices that they essentially crush from beans are very, very strong. And so even breaks in price, all that does is incentivize the profit margins to do that. And so now we're on the opposite side with the problem in weather. You have the need to ration some of that demand, and that's going to come from two places. It's going to come from beans rallying or the oil and the meal selling off. And obviously a weather problem is going to bring that latter. So I think 14 and a half will probably provide some technical resistance. There's a high there. If you look at the chart, you're going to see it right away. But at this point, the delivery for September will be keenly watched to see who wants to step in and get the last of the old crop supply and at what price. And I think we'll go from there.
And what about corn? Can it continue to follow soybeans and get above the $5 mark?
I think December will trade there. I think the September contract, watch first notice stay here. This will be the first notice day of the marketing year. A lot of old crop, new crop merging of supply, and the basis is all over the place. So you have basis strong out west, not as so much here in the Midwest. We've seen it kind of fall in the last couple of weeks. So I think at this point, corn has to get through this choppiness of the delivery period, kind of price itself versus feed grains. But again, like soybean oil and soybean meal, ethanol is doing well, the industry, and feed margins are pretty good. So I think you're going to see corn come in, and find a low here very short term. Then I think Deese puts in some premium ahead of the reports. How much, how high? That's a tough question to answer. I don't think that there's going to be a whole lot of demand for corn above, say, 520, 530, at least on that front contract.
All right. Thanks for joining us as always, John Payne with HedgePoint Global Markets, and that is Markets Now. We'll have more Ag Day coming up.
To find John's newsletter, This Week in Grain and Oilseeds, head over to www.thisweekingrain.com.
Yeah, we are looking at precipitation over the next several days. Next 24 hours could see a couple spotty showers across the eastern seaboard, but the big focus is definitely going to be as Idalia makes her way on toward Florida and the rest of the southeast. Several inches of rain could get picked up between that Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday time frame as she makes her way up the eastern seaboard, possibly getting as far north as North Carolina. So again, we'll be watching this pretty closely over the next several days as Idalia makes her way toward the coast. The damage could be pretty significant as she is expected to be making landfall as possibly a Category 3 hurricane. Now, she's not exactly the place that needs the rain. It's actually closer toward places like Texas that really need the rain. Also upwards toward the central and northern plains. They're still sitting in between a moderate severe drought. There's a lot of exceptional out toward parts of Texas that desperately needs some of that rainfall. Not going to be seeing much in this next week, though, because a jet stream watching as we see this heat dome really make its way back into the central part of the country. We're starting to see those temperatures drop off from those hundreds to the 90s, but they're going to start increasing as we head into that Thursday. And then the eastern part of the country going to start seeing that as well as this heat dome really intensifies. You can see that pink area right there across that time we get into our Labor Day weekend. So that weekend is looking pretty toasty for just about everyone east of the Rockies. But as we head into that Monday, continuing to see the more eastern portion of the U.S. sitting underneath that very intense heat dome, and it doesn't appear to be going anywhere anytime soon, and it will be causing some pretty dry conditions of the first week of our September. So way to start kicking off the unofficial end of summer. Devil's Lake, you're going to be sunny. Temperatures sitting pretty comfortably in the upper 70s. Might be a little chilly in that morning as well. Emporia, Kansas, it's not as hot as it has been, but still pretty toasty. Looking at mostly sunny conditions, highs in the 90s. Meanwhile, in Poto, Oklahoma, temperatures in the low 90s.
Is there hope for dairy margins? We'll take a look at the latest numbers coming up next. And later, farmers in North Dakota grow dozens of different commodities. We'll see the effort to get more of those products on state menus in the country. Dairy industry leaders say there are some hopeful signs right now that the milk price situation may improve. The National Milk Producers Federation in its monthly dairy market report saying that last month retail prices of milk, cheese, and butter were all lower than a year ago. Leaders saying with that, dairy futures are signaling milk prices will rapidly improve for the remaining months of this year, and they also expect DMC margins to improve as well, increasing from August through October, reaching $9.50 per hundredweight by December. USDA has raised its 2024 average milk price forecast to $19.35 per hundredweight. Meanwhile, another dairy operation has closed its doors, leaving several Midwest dairy farmers without a market for their milk. Hastings Creamery in Hastings, Minnesota closed down officially earlier this month. DairyHerd.com reporting that many producers also want to be paid for their last milk check with that creamery, but haven't. In early June, sewer services to the creamery was cut off after it leaked thousands of gallons of milk and cream into the city's sewer system, resulting in several permit violations. And before closing, Hastings Creamery processed 150,000 pounds of raw milk each day and purchased it from dairy farmers in both Minnesota and Wisconsin. It has been in business for 110 years. So how many different kinds of state-grown foods are you cooking at home? We'll hear from the ag leaders in North Dakota hoping to influence more menus with locally grown foods in that state, in the country, next. North Dakota farmers produce 54 different commodities, but when it comes to using those North Dakota grown foods in your cooking, some may be stumped. Jody Kurzman of AgDay affiliate KFYR shows us what the North Dakota Department of Agriculture is doing about it.
I'm always looking for food that's fresh.
North Dakota chef Stephanie Miller is passionate about good food and about her home state.
I was born here, I grew up here. All my family pretty much is here, and my husband and I have a business here, and it's our home. It's going to be really good.
So she jumped at the chance to talk about both in these new videos produced by the North Dakota Department of Agriculture.
North Dakota.
As a chef, it's my responsibility to promote farmers and ranchers. I'm here with my husband Shane.
In this video, Stephanie shares tips to make a charcuterie board featuring locally grown foods.
Your bigger items first.
This is one of 3 videos showcasing the abundance of crops grown in North Dakota and some easy tips to cook and preserve a variety of North Dakota grown foods.
I think sometimes people they get a little anxious because it's like, I want to experience some of these things, but they're always better at someone else's place or at the restaurant. Well, Now we have recipes for you. We're showing you how easy you can set it up, what you can do.
The idea is to start a conversation about foods grown right here in North Dakota and to provide some easy ways to incorporate them into your cooking.
That we got the other day at the farmer's market.
Ag Commissioner Doug Goring hopes it might also provide an understanding of where our food comes from and of the important role North Dakota producers play in feeding the world.
Here's to great food and great times, fresh from North Dakota.
In Bismarck, I'm Jody Kurzman, reporting for your News Leader. Our thanks to Jody Kurzman and KFYR for sharing that story. Now, you can watch all of the videos on the North Dakota Ag Department's website and social media channels. And that's all the time we have this morning. We're sure glad you tuned in. Thanks for watching. From all of us here at AgDay, I'm Clinton Griffiths. Have a great day.